Yo, it's me, Captain Gold, and you're watching yet another gold standard Project Zomboid tier list video. And for this particular episode, I'll be making a tier list for vanilla traits in Build 41. Negative traits to be exact. Now, before we begin, allow me to provide you with a simple disclaimer. This list is ultimately my subjective opinion, as I don't believe I can be perfectly objective with such a subject. Regardless of that fact, I will be trying my damned hardest to be objective with my placements on this list. Now, fortunately for me and you, traits are a bit more straightforward than occupations, because you can make just about any occupation work or shine under the right circumstances. Traits, however, can be objectively good and objectively terrible, with little room for exceptions or caveats. Also, when it comes to these tier list videos, you should know that I'm working with bullet points and not a script, so if I miss something, just let me know in the comment section. That being said, let's go ahead and begin this video by covering the awful tier. Now, every trait in this shit tier is going to be so bad that I'd strongly recommend against using them, unless you're role-playing or just trolling. As a matter of fact, this tier is so bad, I don't think I'm even going to bother with properly ranking each of these traits on this level. I'm just going to put them in there because, in my view, they will all be equally bad. So let's go ahead and start things off with Restless Sleeper. Now, why am I choosing Restless Sleeper? Well, you're going to be tired all the time, which will leave you with some serious nerfs. Take, for example, when you're drowsy. That's about 50% decreased melee damage, and you get also a smaller vision cone, which could lead to a Zed sneaking up behind you and biting you in the neck. I also believe your stamina gets nerfed by this. Somebody double check that for me. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Now, in addition to this, you definitely will have to sleep more than normal, roughly twice as much, and you'll also keep waking up. So you're going to have to force yourself to sleep with sleeping tablets or alcohol. So long story short, you're going to be miserable and unproductive. So just don't take this trait. It's god awful. Now, there's also Sleepyhead, which also leads to a lack of productivity. You will get tired faster, and you'll need more sleep than normal. And you're only going to get this for 4 trait points. That's just awful. Like, that's basically the opposite of Night Owl, right? The next trait I would say belongs in the awful tier is Unlucky. And that just makes looting and repairs harder. And you only get 4 trait points for this. If you have the Unlucky trait, it would be possible for you to walk into the Rosewood fire station and not find a single fire axe. Okay, that would suck, right? Now imagine that happening all across the map for as long as you play in that particular world as that survivor. It's just not worth the points in my opinion. So don't take it. Now the next one I would say is Disorganized. And the reason for this is because Disorganized reduces storage space in your containers. And when I say your containers, I mean all of them, which includes any bag and any piece of furniture that holds shit, like cupboards, closets, boxes, crates. This even affects your car seats and your car trunks. Now, a big part of this game is the act of carrying shit and storing shit. That's why people are happy when a large bag is found, and that's why they're happy when they can get their hands on good furniture. This trait is an awful trait. Don't take it. Speaking of another bad trait, I would say Asthmatic is pretty garbage. Okay, you can't jog or sprint very much when you have this trait. So if you're playing with sprinters, this is a death sentence. But what this trait does to your melee is also pretty bad, because every swing you take with a melee weapon is now far more impactful on your endurance. So yeah, just an awful fucking trait. The next one for me, I think, would be very underweight. It costs you 2 fitness levels, it ruins melee damage, it increases your chances for tripping, and makes climbing fences less consistent. You also don't get your fitness back when you get rid of this trait by gaining more weight. So that loss in fitness is just going to be there forever. So yeah, it's an awful trait. Fitness is super important in this game, and more so than strength. Now, the next trait that I would put in this tier is Obese. Okay, it caps your fitness at level 6 and starts you with -2 in fitness. Now, I don't think much else needs to be said here. It's an awful trait, and it's going to be very hard to lose that weight, because gaining weight in this game is a lot easier than losing it. It comes with other nerfs, but I don't think I really have to mention them. I would say the next one is probably going to be Unfit. Where is Unfit? There it is. Unfit costs you 4 levels in fitness in a game where you start at 5 with default levels. That's pretty fucking bad. That's hot garbage. Weak also belongs down here because it reduces your strength level by 5 and decreases knockback even more. So just don't take this trait. The next one should be a no-brainer, and that is slow learner. Zomboid is a game where grinding for skills takes time. So you probably shouldn't pick the trait that makes that activity even more time-consuming. It would be a pretty stupid decision for you to do that. And I think with slow learner, I think you get like 30% less XP per activity. I might have to double check that. Somebody look that up. Now, deaf is a death sentence waiting to happen. You can't hear shit. Hell, you can't even utilize the radio's emergency broadcast frequency. Your perception radius is also smaller. So this trait is going to get you killed. It's just awful. The next one I would say is all thumbs. It just slows down the act of putting shit into a bag or into like a container of some sort. This is probably going to get you killed, believe it or not. And it's only 2 trait points. But the last thing you want to do is take forever while looting, and you're in a hurry. I'm telling you, this will get you. It seems innocent enough, but it's going to get you killed, or at least injured at some point. I would not take this at all. It's not worth the 2 points. Speaking of low points, I would say Sunday Driver is probably the worst awful trait here. I'll put it up here. You only get 1 point, right? But in exchange for that 1 point, you get lower vehicle acceleration speed. So towing will be harder as a result, and you'll most definitely die if your car is surrounded by a horde. But another consequence of this is that your fuel consumption for your vehicles will go up. And it'll go up dramatically. And I believe it'll also wear your car down faster as well. So I'm not sure about that last part. Somebody fact check that for me. But it's just an awful trait. It's nothing but terrible negatives for 1 point. That shit's a fucking trap. I would not fall for it at all. Would not recommend. All right, so I think we just finished the awful tier, right? I don't think we need to add any more to it. Let's move on to the niche tier, or the tier where traits are only good for very specific and situational strategies or survivor builds. And starting off this tier, I'm going to put Cowardly. It's only 2 trait points, and we're talking about 200% panic status. So you're basically, I think, doubling or tripling how much panic affects you. You're going to need more beta blockers, and you're going to need to take them for a longer period of time, right? Because as you know, panic does reduce over time the longer you survive. Well, that period of time is going to be longer with Cowardly. Now, it could work with certain builds, but it generally isn't good. So I'll just put it in the niche tier for now. I'm also going to put Pacifist in the niche tier because it kind of sucks, since you kind of need to level up your weaponry skills in order to survive in this game, and this trait makes that much harder. But if you're building a specific pacifist survivor, you'll know how to work around this trait. It's just not something I would recommend, generally speaking, for everyone. The next trait, I say, would be Hard of Hearing. It's a dangerous selection. You can work around it with skill and good situational awareness, but it definitely wouldn't be a trait that most players can handle in the long run. It's an easy way to get caught slipping. Now, both claustrophobic and agoraphobic have their niche uses. And these are very specific traits that are used for very specific builds. For example, you could use agoraphobic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Agoraphobic and cowardly. You can use those 2 traits along with the positive traits of adrenaline junkie and runner. And then you use that with the fitness instructor occupation, and you'll have a survivor that can easily and reliably outrun hordes of sprinters. So trust me, There are uses for these traits, but they are for very specific and niche builds. They're not the sort of traits that I would recommend anyone use on a general basis. The next trait will be out of shape. It's decent since you can work around the -2 in fitness, because that's all it gives you. Unlike very underweight, which comes with a whole plethora of other nerfs that I didn't even bother mentioning. But, out of shape, all it does is touch your fitness. And the same is for feeble. All it does is touch your strength. That's it. So there are ways to work around it. Now, the reason out of shape is lower than feeble is because fitness is harder to level up than strength. Now, the last trait I would say that is in the niche tier would be illiterate. Now, hear me out on this. Illiterate is a decent pick with very specific occupations. For example, you can be an electrician, and then you can pick the amateur mechanic trait with illiterate. If you do that, you'll get a total of -1 trait points, while retaining the ability to use generators and the ability to work on standard and heavy-duty vehicles, which is crucial for long-term survival. And then after that, you can start adding more traits to your delight, building a solid character. This is something that can have its niche use, but it's not something that I would recommend beginners play with. Because without something like electronic or mechanic, or some friends and squad mates to play with, the illiterate trait will severely retard your ability to survive in the long run, precisely due to the fact that you won't be able to read the How to Use Generators magazine or any other valuable recipe magazines, at all. You won't be able to read them. You can make it. It becomes more useful if you have squad mates to work with who can take care of those tasks that you can't take care of. But if you're by yourself and you're not a mechanic or an electrician, man, you're in for a rough ride, man. All right, I think we're making good progress here. Yeah, let's. I think we can move on to the good shit tier. Starting off, good shit would be clumsy and conspicuous. I think they're pretty decent. You get slightly higher footstep noise and trip chances, and one of them gives you a 200% chance of being spotted. That's really not that big of a deal. It can be troublesome, but it ain't hard to work around at all. The same could be said for hearty appetite. It's a pain to deal with. It's just a really big inconvenience, especially in the long run. Food is harder to get than water, despite what some of you might fucking say. Plus, carrying extra food is just an annoyance. But you can work around this. It's not that difficult so long as you place a little bit more focus on your food needs. Now, it's probably not the best pick for beginners, but trust me, it is annoying. I've had more than one playthrough with a friend where they've chosen this and they've deeply regretted it because they were hungry literally 24/7, and it was fucking funny as shit. But it was annoying to me because they kept eating my fucking food when I wasn't at the base. Anyways, the next one will be fear of blood. Now, fear of blood only causes panic when you're performing first aid on yourself. It'll also prevent you from performing first aid on other players. So if you have this, you can't save anybody. Now, if you have blood on you, it will stress your character out, and stress gives you minor nerfs to melee and firearm damage. But this is pretty easy to work around. It's not that difficult at all, hence why it's higher on this tier. Plus, you get +5 trait points. That's pretty damn good. Topping off this tier will be overweight. Now, overweight caps fitness at level 9, which isn't bad because if you're at level 9 fitness, you really don't need to go to 10. You're in great waters. You're doing fucking fine for yourself. But it also makes you slower with stamina regen, and I believe it slows down your melee speed. I might have to double check that. But unlike underweight, it doesn't nerf melee damage. That said, as stated before, losing weight is much harder than gaining weight, so that's why it's not in the free points category. But it could be the better pick between overweight and underweight. If you're starting 10 years into the apocalypse or in the winter with no power, right? So this might actually be a free points trait depending on the circumstance. So I'll leave that up to you guys. Now, speaking of free points, let's start with short-sighted. Just wear glasses and you're fucking good. Plus, the nerf to your vision is not even that bad. It's literally free points. Then you've got slow reader. That's just free points. I mean, I know some people disagree, and I would say don't listen to the dog water advice from that one Zomboid tuber named Matsy. I think that's his name. Dude's arguing slow reader is bad because he doesn't understand how it's free points. Just fast forward when you're reading. Oh, it takes time. Who the hell spends time reading during the first week, or at least large amounts of time reading outside of reading before bedtime? You won't have to worry about the time that this trait costs you. It's called time management. Just take it. Also, I should apologize for calling out a specific YouTuber. Matsy's advice is actually usually really fucking good, but that specific hot take was like walking in on grandma while she was shitting on grandpa. That shit hurt my eyes, man, and my ears. Anyways, the next one's going to be weak stomach. That's just free points. Just don't eat literal shit and you'll be fine. The next one is smoker. Free points. Lighters and cigs are plentiful. They'll even spawn on Zeds, so they're technically renewable if you have Zed respawn on. Now, to deal with unhappiness, you can read books, cook good food, or watch videos, and happiness won't be an issue. And food is a renewable resource anyway. The only thing that'll be difficult to get rid of is stress, because you can't get rid of that with a good meal. You could probably get rid of that with some books from time to time. But really, you just have to smoke like once a day, and stress won't even be an issue for you. The next one will be prone to illness. Just don't get sick. And if you do get the flu, stay at home. It's not that hard to work around at all. Next one would be high thirst. Come on. There we go. Yeah, we're ordering these in a specific... I'll explain that later, how this order is, what this order is all about. But high thirst is free points. Water is everywhere. You've got lakes, rivers, rainwater, toilets, tubs, sinks, wells, water dispensers. You can fill up empty water bottles when the water, utilities are on. I mean, it's just too easy to get water, especially in comparison to food. It's literally everywhere. It doesn't even cost you resources to get water. It's free points. Trust me. The next one is going to be slow healer. Just don't get fucking injured. And if you do, just wait until you're healed. Not that difficult. Underweight is amazing. Eat a ton of food the first week when processed food is readily available and refrigerated, and you'll lose the trait in no time, and you'll have +6 trait points as well, while only losing 1 level in fitness. Not a bad deal. Then we've got thin-skinned. Topping this off. It's amazing because if you don't do stupid shit, you won't get injured. It's that simple. Now, as I stated earlier, I would explain the order of the free points tier. So these are ordered based on the amount of points they give you, because they are all buttfuck easy to work around. They are literally free points. So from going from right to left means that each of those traits will give you more points to work with. So, anyways, with all of that said, that concludes this gold standard tier list. If you enjoy this sort of content, support your captain by liking, sharing, and, most of all, subscribing. Also, smash that notification icon as well so that you may be notified when I publish a new video. Also remember that you may opine anytime if you feel so inclined down in the comments section. I am Captain Gold and I hope to see you in my next video.